to be misinformed by the police. There's been times I've been out on the streets with other street preachers, and an officer comes and says, well, you can't do this here, this is disturbing the peace, or this is disorderly conduct, and the other preachers are just ready to give up and say, oh, okay, I didn't know that, I'm sorry, and they're just ready to leave. And I stand up and I say, no, I know for a fact free speech does not qualify or classify as disorderly conduct or disturbing the peace. The Supreme Court has ruled on this many times, and I've stood my ground and I've reasoned with these officers, and we were able to continue to preach when these other street preachers were ready just to give up because the officer told them they were breaking the law. And so you can't just take their word for it. These officers, they are problem solvers. They get a call, they get a complaint, they want to arrive on the scene and solve the problem. And if someone called the cops on you, then you're the problem. So they're just trying to make you leave, and they're trying to make you stop. But if you're just exercising your freedom of speech, you're not doing anything wrong. The person complaining and calling the police, essentially they're doing something wrong. And so you need to know what your rights are so that you can firmly stand for them. And sometimes you have to even inform these officers as to what the law is. Remember, we're going out on a regular basis, maybe every week or a few times a month. We're going out street preaching and open air preaching, and we're a minority. We're a small crowd. We're not very large. We're not a big movement yet. And so these officers, they don't always deal with street preachers. They're often dealing with criminals. And so they're often just telling these criminals what they need to do and putting a stop to whatever complaint they're receiving. And so, we deal with street preaching. We need to be familiar with the rights and the legal rulings that relate to it. And sometimes we have to inform these police what those legal rulings and rights are, because they're not used to dealing with street preachers in many cities and in many towns. And so here's a list of some of the legal rights that are very relevant to the type of ministry that we do. First, open-air preaching is protected by the United States Constitution. The Constitution says this: Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Second, we have the right to pass out literature, to preach, and to display signs on public areas. Third, we have the right to exercise our religion and to speak in all quintessential public forums. Fourth, we have a guaranteed access to streets, parks, and other traditional public forum, and mere inconvenience to the government will not outweigh our free speech interest. Fifth, our freedom of speech may not be prohibited merely because it offends some listeners. Sixth, a city may not consider the listener's reactions when permitting free speech activity. Seventh, hecklers do not have veto power over a speaker's right of free speech, but police must control a crowd rather than arrest the speaker in order to maintain order. Eighth, we have the right to be loud enough to be heard. Ninth, we have the right to be protected by law enforcement if the crowd is offended by what we are preaching and becomes hostile. 10, permits may not be allowed to be used to restrict the speaker's right of free expression, and permits may not be used as a prior restraint on free speech. 11, a free speech lawsuit is a federal case and allows us to sue policemen and guards in their official capacity and as individuals. 12, a free speech lawsuit will subject the police and those involved to pay our damages and all of our attorney fees. I recommend taking these rights